All right, all right, all right. Welcome back to WMAC Now with your host, Chuck Stevenson, coming at you with another fight review. This time we're going to Manila, the Philippines, for one championship, Masters of Fate. We're going to it's the strawweight division. Let's just call it what it is. It's strawweight division. Stamp Fairtex coming in 2-0, taking on Nguyen, coming in at 5-4. I talked in the preview that, Nguyen had the more MMA experience, but Stamp Fairtex had way more actual combat sports experience just because of all of her Muay Thai fights. And, before I really get into this and start going over my notes from this, to call this fight a one-sided beatdown would be to imply that there were two sides in this fight. And really, it was like, watching this fight, it was like, wow, this fight was written out ahead of time, and it was just like so obvious from the start that this was pretty much going to be a one-sided beatdown. I mean, Stamp Fairtex owned B Nguyen everywhere this fight went. Let me go in my notes. So Nguyen came out very aggressive, very early, but it didn't really do any good. Because Fairtex just controlled everywhere the fight went. She controlled at range with her striking. She controlled in the clinch with her clinch work and striking. And she even controlled on the ground. Like the very few times that this fight went to the ground, Stamp was on top, Nguyen was on all fours, and Fairtex was beating on Nguyen and landing some knees. But she generally let up Nguyen pretty quickly. Some of the most devastating strikes were the clinch knees from Stamp. She actually buckled Nguyen to the ground in the first with them. I mean, those were just some nasty knees. And then, as soon as Nguyen would even get close with her strikes, Stamp just lit her up. There was a couple moments where Stamp had some success. Like, she actually managed to drive Nguyen into the corner in a second. But then, as soon as she got her there, Stamp just basically shrugged her off and backed her up with strikes to the center of the cage. Nguyen's best strikes were when she could land her left hand. She's a southpaw, so her power comes from her left. But she whiffed 7 or 8 out of every 10 she threw. She just missed the majority of them. She just completely whiffed on them. One thing I noticed, and this is apparent in how dominant she was being, between the second and third round, Stamp Fairtex danced her way back to her corner, pointing at her corner and smiling. She does this when she knows she is way ahead of her opponent. The fights she's had that were closer, like against Janet Todd, I don't remember her doing it, or Alma Uniku. I don't really remember her dancing as much. When Stamp Fairtex starts dancing, it's because she knows she is in complete control of the fight. She is that confident. And that's because, even when B Nguyen strikes would land and find a home, they weren't hard. They weren't hitting Stamp at all. Like, every time Nguyen would land what should have been a hard strike, Stamp just smiled and laughed it off. Nguyen was not able to get Stamp's respect at all throughout this fight. So of course it went to the judges' scorecards because I will give B Nguyen credit for showing a lot of heart in this fight, but when you're just completely dominated, having a lot of heart just doesn't win you fights at all, unfortunately. If it did, yeah, she'd have won, but it obviously does not matter. So went to the judges, and the winner was by unanimous decision. Stamp Fairtex. So congrats, Stamp, on winning your third MMA fight. All right, so things to work on. For B Nguyen, she needs to stop fighting opponents that are twice her size. That was the most glaring thing in this fight was just the sheer size difference. Okay, the 115 atom weight, one size fits all in one championship. There's just too much, size mismatches in one weight division for what's supposed to be atom weight. And I don't want to hear from anyone that, well, they're all atom weights, they're just fighting hydrated. No. You're not going to tell me that Stamp Fairtex or Angela Lee would ever have a chance of making 105 pounds. Don't come at me with this, they're atom weights, they're just fighting hydrated. No. Okay? B. Nguyen is a genuine atom weight. She's like 4'11". That's where she needs to be fighting at, not at this 115 catch-all of one championship. So, for B. Nguyen, fight opponents more to your size, like Bozena Antoniar, or the smaller ones like Jenny Huang, or who Nusre Pove, I think, was her first opponent. Yeah, Nguyen just needs to be smart with accepting fights and fight to the opponents that are closer to her size. As for Stamp Fairtex, it's very hard to pick out things for her to work on because out of 3 MMA fights, the first one ended, I think, by head kick very early. Second fight, she completely dominated, and then this third fight, she just completely dominated. So it's hard to pick out things to work on. If I were to say anything, I would go with the typical Muay Thai things. Like her stance is still very typical Muay Thai. She hasn't yet adapted to that MMA because she hasn't really had to. She can get away with holding a very typical Muay Thai stance. And then lack of head movement. That's a very modern Muay Thai thing. And she's gotten away with it because, well, no one's hit her hard enough to make her realize, oh, maybe I should move my head out of the way. At least not in Muay Thai, no one's done that yet. Or, I mean, MMA. Not in MMA has anybody done that yet. As for matches to make, for B. Nguyen, I think she should try to line up a rematch with Bozena Antoniar. She and Toto had a fight earlier this year, a few months back, and like maybe 5-6 months back, and it was a split decision for Antoniar that a lot of people thought Nguyen won. I probably would have given it to Nguyen as well. If I were Nguyen, I would try to get that one back, and I'd aim for that fight. As for Stamp Fairtex, it's hard to tell. Michael Schiavello, I think, in the commentary said she wants like 2 or 3 more fights after this before fighting for the championship, and then she said in the post-fight interview, I want 4 fights and then title shot. So if we're going by 4 fights total, then I would set up a title eliminator with Vivi May Yamaguchi. Yamaguchi is another one who is on a nice win streak, and she is angling for a title shot as well. Now, she's been up against Angela Lee twice. First time was for the inaugural title, and then the rematch, and a lot of people thought Yamaguchi should have won that rematch. I mean, Angela Lee actually got booed in Singapore over that decision. So, that's supposed to be her hometown. So I would match up Stamp with Vivi May. Vivi May has strong enough power that when she lands, she'll make Stamp respect her power. Her striking is not nowhere near Fairtex, but where Yamaguchi excels is in judo and wrestling, and she can get Fairtex to the ground. And I think she might have the strength and skill to not only get Fairtex to the ground, but to actually put her in trouble, which nobody has done yet in MMA. So make that a fight, and then the winner of that gets the next title against Angela Lee. All right, so that's my review on this fight. Let me know what you guys thought about it in the comments down below. Of course, likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMAC now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube, and hit that bell for notifications. And we'll see you next time.